The following program has been brought to you by Tiger Media Net. That program being, it came from the DVD collection.
Hello, my name is John Billinger. I'm a writer for Tiger Media Net. I've been writing for them for about a year on all sorts of weird topics of movies, TV shows, different genres, some of the monster movies, comedies, horror movies, animation as well, all kinds of things. And here with me is...
Hi, I'm Connor Keating. I'm a writer for TMN. I also do reviews. And for before I came here to Hayes, I was writing for the Hutch Collegian over at HCC, where I also reviewed a lot of different monster movies and just other weird, obscure movies. And so, yeah, now I'm here writing more monster movie reviews.
Yeah. And today we're going to talk about a movie from 1957, a wonderful piece of cinematic excellence known as The Giant Claw. For those of you who don't know, The Giant Claw is about a pilot who sees an unidentified object that turns out to be a very ugly bird portrayed by a very ugly-looking marionette puppet.
Mitch.
Bird is extraterrestrial. Comes from outer space. From some godforsaken antimatter galaxy millions and millions of light years from the Earth.
Atomic hydrogen weapons capable of wiping cities, countries off the face of the Earth are completely ineffective against this creature from the skies.
It's as big as a battleship.
Big as yep, they say it's as big as a battleship throughout the whole movie. They say it 11 times, or like 12 or 13 times, and it's pretty good. It's a pretty routine, if not for the monster, it's a mostly routine 50s monster movie, B-movie type of thing. Would you agree?
I would honestly disagree, and I'll get into why in a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a bit.
Well, I guess we should go into a little bit of the production history of this movie. Mm-hmm. This movie was made in 1957. Kind of a kind of cashing in on the success of Rodan, which came out in the States the same year, which is also about a
giant, well, pterosaur, but a giant flying monster.
Yeah, kind of the same thinking, and I guess it was also the Giant Claw was also inspired by some discoveries in the field of science with atomic energy and all that, because
a lot of atoms and stuff.
Yeah,
particles.
because part of the thing in the movie is that the bird cannot be shot by regular missiles or bullets or anything like that because it is protected by an antimatter shield throughout the whole thing. It's also extraterrestrial as well. Although I recall that the poster, which by the way does not show the picture of the bird's head.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, avoids the head at all cost. Yeah,
because they knew that would kill the movie. The poster says winged beast from 17 million BC or something like that.
That's
like they couldn't make up their minds on whether or not they wanted.
I wonder
to be,
if the person who drew the poster, designed the poster, even saw the movie.
I would probably not. Some of those movies they didn't.
I think
poster
a lot of those movies, the person who drew them rarely ever saw the movie.
Yes. Early on in production, they now the effects in the movie are widely agreed to not be very good.
No, lots of strings, poorly designed puppet.
Yeah. Well, some would say it's actually a nicely designed puppet. We'll get into that.
I mean, I kind of do, but it's got some weird stuff to it that. Yeah.
But originally they wanted Ray Harryhausen, one of the great special effects masters of his era and full time, really. They wanted him to do the effects at first. He's also did the effects for a lot of other 1950s monster movies, like The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, Earth versus the Flying Saucers, 20 Million Miles to Earth, really good movies. And some of those movies were even made by the same producer of this movie, Sam Katzman.
And the director did Earth versus the Flying Saucers the year
Brett
prior.
Sears, yeah. Workaholic, who actually died the same year this movie came out.
Oh my! So was this his last movie then, or did he make one right after?
He made a few more after that, but this was one of the last ones.
Wow.
But anyway, I guess there's some disagreement on why Ray Harryhausen didn't do the effects.
I heard it was just a budget thing.
That's what I always heard too. But Joe Dante, who directed best known for being the director of Gremlins, said that Harryhausen turned it down, and he was a very good friend of Harryhausen. So I think maybe that's might be the actual.
Yeah, that makes sense. Might be more of a plausible reason, especially if you had talked to the guy.
Yeah, but I guess we'll never know because
Nope.
Ray Harryhausen has been
He passed away a while ago.
about and he died in 2013, I think. Anyway, so instead of using Ray Harryhausen, having Ray Harryhausen do the effects, the producer decided to cut the cost, and have a special effects studio in Mexico make the puppet. I've heard that apparently the puppet cost $50 to make.
Oh my gosh! If it was only $50 to make, I kind of want to try and make my own.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it was inflation.
Okay, that's true.
Actually, let me
let
me look up Mexican inflation.
But unfortunately, the puppet has vanished. It has been. I don't think anybody knows where it went after. After the filming. My guess is it's still in the bottom of that lake wherever they filmed the ending. Just let it sink.
I've
and
actually
left it down there.
once I actually looked up pictures of where's the giant koala today, and I actually did find some color photos that are supposedly the bird. I don't know if those are actually real.
I don't think those are the real puppet, because I've seen those pictures too, where it's hanging from a ceiling or something.
Yeah,
I don't think those is
But anyway, let me just get some Mexican pesos here. So I'm just gonna. They don't have 19. This just starts 1969.
Unfortunate.
Okay, well this is close enough. 1960. Let's just put down
$50.
$50, and that would be well, okay.
Okay, that's 6,838.
It's like $700, $700,000.
700,000.
Almost.
Sheesh.
I guess Mexican inflation's
Might be pretty high.
Editor's note. This inflation calculation was done on a random site on the internet and might not be accurate.
Anyway, none of the cast members, when they were making this movie, which included experienced monster fighters like Jeff Morrow and Maura Corday. Jeff Morrow was also in other science fiction movies like Creature Walks Among Us, This Island Earth. And Maura Corday was also in The Black Scorpion and Tarantula.
Yeah, Tarantula.
Anyway, they had no idea what this bird looked like when they were making the movie. And I guess they were told, listen, the effects are going to be really good and they're going to be really scary. Just pretend you're seeing something really scary. And so they acted as such, and they took it really seriously. Which, when you watch the movie today, it has a very weird effect because it's it's almost comical.
Everybody's reacting very this movie they take it seriously, and I think that's kind of
it's part of the charm.
It's part of the charm. That's generally part of the charm of a lot of 50s monster movies, is that these things, they take them absolutely seriously, and the monsters are oftentimes the cheesiest looking thing.
Yeah. I'll never forget Brain from Planet Arrows. I think it's like a brain on a string or something like that.
Or what was it? Is it Conquers the World? Yeah, with the big carrot. The carrot with the teeth.
I don't remember. I remember there's this movie called From Hell It Came, and it's this giant
it's that weird
tree monster. Yeah. Ugh. The trees from Wizard of Oz were scarier.
Well, I mean, not Wizard of Oz. That's really scary. But
you don't like Wizard of Oz?
No, I like Wizard of Oz. I have to like it. I'm from Kansas.
But that movie, maybe we got to do that one day.
Maybe we got to do Wizard of Oz.
No. From Hell It Came.
From Hell It Came.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever hear what the New York Times review From Hell It Came was?
No.
It was. It just said, "From Hell It Came." That was the title, and then there was like a short review that said, "And to hell it can go."
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie as well.
But
Anyway, when the cast they saw this movie when it premiered, the audience basically burst into laughter once the monster showed up. And there's a room. Well, Jeff Morrow has stated in interviews that he walked out of the theater, and there's some rumors that I guess he went out and started drinking or something.
just got drunk.
Yeah, he thought his career was basically done. And if you're in a movie like that where the audience is like laughing for the wrong reasons, it's can't really blame him.
I don't know. Was he in anything else?
Yeah, he was in a lot of other stuff afterwards, but I don't think he did much sci-fi after that. I think he did some.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I think he did some Twilight Zone and the revival series though later on.
He did do Octoman from 1971, so he wasn't totally out of the sci-fi game.
Octoman, which I believe was also the first film where with featuring effects done by Rick Baker, Monster Maker. Yeah, great special effects man. He also did American Werewolf in London and Henry and the Harrisons.
Oh, that's some good stuff.
And a bunch of other stuff as well. And Schlock. You ever heard of that one?
No, yeah, I've heard of that one. That's a good one.
It's John Landis' first movie. But anyway, this movie pretty much kind of slipped into obscurity. But
yeah, until TV came along, and then they started showing it in different Do you think the TNT Monster Vision was kind of where it became?
Yeah, I think they did because I remember they did I remember reading. I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Monster Vision was a programming block on TNT back in the 90s where late at night they would show monster movies from dusk till dawn. At some point it was hosted by the great Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah, and at that point I think they started getting more into slasher movies at that point.
Yeah,
but before that it was a lot of 50s stuff, a lot of Godzilla movies.
And Joe Bob also did the Godzilla films as well.
Okay.
Anyway, they did a Christmas marathon where they showed the giant claw for some reason, which is I don't know why this movie qualifies.
It's a very, very Christmassy movie. You know what? Maybe I should start putting it on around Christmas time.
Yeah. And then the internet came around and the movie became more famous. In fact, the internet is where I first heard of this movie because of James Rolfe's Cinemassacre's Monster Madness. He did a top 10 giant monsters video, and the giant claw just happened to make number one, beating out the likes of Godzilla and King Kong and all of them.
As he should.
And how did you first hear about the giant claw?
Yeah, I can't quite remember. Either it was James Rolfe, or it was from a Watch Mojo top 10, unfortunately. I watched a lot of Watch Mojo when I first got on YouTube.
Yeah, so did I.
And it wouldn't surprise me if that was if I saw that in a top 10 and was like, oh my gosh, that thing's crazy looking. But yeah, I think at some point I saw AVGN cover it. Or I watched Brandon Tenold's review. I can't remember how old or new that review was compared to when I first got into YouTube, but somewhere around there, one of those is where I first discovered the giant claw.
Well, Brandon Tenold. But James Rolfe is where I first found the movie, and I remember when I saw it, I was like, this movie looks awesome. I didn't think the bird looked quite as fake because, it looked kind of scary,
Well, when you're a kid, you just don't notice the bad effects.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was actually scared of the Blob.
That it's a scary idea of a creature.
Yeah. But I remember I wanted to watch the movie, and I went to see if it was on Netflix to rent, and it was
back then they actually had good movies on Netflix.
Yeah, but it wasn't on streaming. They weren't streaming it. It was a DVD rental thing. And it was, and back then the Giant Claw was available on this 4-pack movie thing on Netflix that included 3 other movies that were also produced by Sam Katzman. The Sam Katzman Icons of Horror DVD set, which also included The Creature with the Atom Brain, Zombies of Morotau, and The Werewolf. And back when I was a kid, I was like, those movies sound really scary. And I'm sure if I watched them today, you know, the only thing scary about them would be the fact that they got made in the first place. And in fact, actually, let's talk a little bit about Sam Katzman, because he was a pretty big B-movie director for that era. And he didn't just do monster movies. He did all sorts of movies. He also did like westerns, jungle adventure movies. In fact, I think jungle adventure movies were what he was like most known for, because his nickname was Jungle Sam. And in fact, he had a thing called the Sam Katzman Jungle, which was he just took a bunch of pod plants and just shot the actors from like the waist up, basically.
That's awesome.
But he did like superhero movies, adventure movies, spy movies, and monster movies, and rock and roll movies, like when rock and roll became popular. He made a bunch of them from like the 30s to the early 70s, which is when he died. And there's a quote from him that I guess pretty much sums him up. Actually, there's several quotes from him that pretty much sum him up. And here's a quote from him. He made a movie in 1961 called Twist Around a Clock, which just featured a bunch of rock and roll singers. And I guess he was asked if he was going to make any sequels to it. And he said, well, it only cost $250,000 to make, but in less than 6 months it grossed $6 million. So of course I'm going to make more Twist movies. And then he said, another quote from him is, Lord knows I'll never make an Academy Award movie, but then I'm just happy to get my achievement plaques from the bank every year. Which is pretty much, that sums him up as a director, a producer, pretty much. And he's got quite the legacy. You know, I mean, obviously not every movie he did was gold or anything like that, but
this one is.
Yeah. So I guess let me ask you what your thoughts on the movie are.
Well, first I just want to go over kind of like when I first saw this movie, or like I want to say I first saw it on YouTube. I think the full movie was on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I remember pulling it up in like the lunchroom cafeteria and watching a little bit of it at school. But
that's where I first watched it.
But the DVD pack that I got it's a different one. It came with much better movies. 20 Million Miles, It Came from Beneath the Sea, and then the American cut of Mothra.
Yeah, I have that one actually.
Yeah, good pack. But the thing is, I found it at like, I want to say Menards or Home Depot or Lowe's. Like, it was like the weirdest place. Yeah, you're just walking by, and then, you know, like on this weird little movie stack, probably with like, you know, like hardware movies, you know, like stuff, like how to. There's just a creature pack. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I grabbed it. It was like $5 or $10. And yeah, I watched them, and they were all great movies. Yeah. Well, I'm not too big on 20 Million Miles, but
no.
The characters ruin that one for me. They're just very bland. But that's a good pack.
I have that one.
Yeah, if you want to see this movie and then some other solid old school monster movies, that's definitely a very good pack to get.
Yeah, I think I first watched the movie when I found out about it back in 2011. When I found out about it, and I saw that the only copy of it on Netflix was on that scary, spooky movie pack.
You passed on that?
Yeah, I remember I was like, all right, I gotta find it online or something like that. And I think I found it on YouTube. And I remember watching it with. Actually, I found 2 different versions of it on YouTube.
Did you find the MS K3000 cut or something?
No, this movie is surprisingly has never been done by Mystery Science Theater 3000, but it was covered by a fan group of Mystery Science Theater 3000 who made their own fan episode of it. I have no idea if it's still up, but it's basically just Mystery Science Theater 3000 but done by fans. And I remember being disappointed. I didn't watch the whole thing because I was disappointed. I was like, I don't want to watch this. I want to watch the full movie without the commentary.
Yeah.
So I eventually did track down a unadulterated, no commentary cut of the movie, and I watched it late one night with my dad, and we had a lot of fun watching it. You know, he liked this one scene where there was a old school police car, you know, black and white car. He liked that because he's a police officer, and you know, I enjoyed it because I was like, yeah, it's a monster. I want to see this thing fight the giant. I want to see the Giant Claw versus Godzilla one day.
Dude, he would kick Godzilla's butt. Godzilla wouldn't be able to touch him.
Godzilla would kill him with.
No, Godzilla wouldn't touch him. He wouldn't be able to touch him.
Yeah, he'd fry him like he did that Condor.
He would
sea
punch.
monster.
He would punch the his force field and bounce right off. There's no way. And the Giant Claw is 400 feet long compared to Godzilla, who averages about. Because he's as big as a battleship.
Yeah,
okay?
he has, according to...
Though he does fluctuate in size in the movie.
200... Well, it says here he's 200 foot. He has a wingspan of 200 feet. According to the awesome book, The Encyclopedia Monsters by Jeff Rovin, which we'll probably reference quite a bit going forward, provided the movie's in the book, which it's probably a good chance. Anyway, did you enjoy the movie when you saw it as a kid?
Yes and no. I think it's a movie that I've actually grown more appreciation for over time, and I think now would be then a good time to just really give our thoughts on the movie. So I think the strong point of the movie is the is the characters, and that's kind of why I feel like the Giant Claw stands above a lot of the other 50s monster movies. Okay, and I'm going to get on a bit of a tangent about 50 monster movies characters, but I've noticed that most of them have 3 characters, right? They have the same 3 characters. You got your first, you got your hero guy, you know, all American, generally no funny business kind of guy who's always, you know, saving the day, getting the girl. He's usually a military guy, a scientist. Sometimes he's an astronaut, you know. And he's just kind of your generic hero protagonist, right? And then you've got the, your girl, right? Your love interest, who is always a scientist who's in a field that's, not for a woman, for the 50s.
Yeah. Usually looks like a pinup girl kind of.
Yeah, and usually looks like a pinup girl, but
and then they have like another eccentric scientist or general.
So the female character, there's always she always has some sort of scene where there's like guys, right? They're talking like, "Oh, I want to see Dr. So-and-so. Here I am." They're like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting you to be a girl," or something like that. That's always that scene. And then you have the scientist. It's usually
scientist.
The scientist, and he is almost always either the girl's like grandfather or father, her professor or teacher, or in some rare cases like a third love interest, and you get a little love triangle. That's mostly in It Came From Beneath the Sea is really where that one comes from. But you always have those 3 characters, and then you kind of have your stock generals and stuff. Yeah,
he's like, we're gonna blow this thing up.
Yeah, and while the Giant Claw does have all 4 of those, it spins them just a little bit, right? So our main character Mitch, right? If I had a nickel for every movie about a guy named Mitch fighting a bird, I'd have 2 nickels. But
rich guy here.
But he is he's a bit snarky, right? He's got a little sass to him, a little bit of snarkiness to him. He's making lots of jokes throughout. Now he definitely does, know when to be serious, so he's not like constantly joking through the whole movie. But he's definitely got some like funny lines, right? Like you got the police officer who's knock on his door while he was in the middle of sleeping. He was like, "You keep your shirt on, I'll go get my pants." Right? And so he's just kind of got a little bit of Yeah, he's just a lot more charming.
And very well acted by Jeff Ballard.
Very well acted. The main two leads are very well acted.
Yeah, they're really good.
A lot of the other acting is not as great, but the main two leads are very good. And then speaking of the other lead, Sally.
Played by Mara Corday.
She, first of all, she does not scream once in the entire movie.
Yeah. She's usually a staple, you know, kind of started by Fay Wray in King Kong.
Yeah. She does kind of gasp. She does gasp, but never does she scream. And, you know, I think to this recent interview with, like, one of the actresses from the new Dune, right? And she's talking about how Frank Herbert in, I think, the 1960s, you know, he wrote a strong female character ahead of its time, right? And that wasn't a thing back then. And that, you know, strong female characters aren't a thing in sci-fi, which, like, you know, I think a lot of people would disagree with like Terminator and Alien and stuff like that. But like my thought is Sally from The Giant Claw, because like, you know, of course she doesn't scream, but you know, then you've also got that scene where she just like picks up a rifle and says, "I'm from Montana," you know,
and
then just starts blowing the holes in the eggs.
Yeah.
And she's got her own little bit of sass, so the two kind of play off of each other very well.
It's really good. The leads are really good, and then they do have like kind of like the stock other characters.
Yeah, there is quite a bit of exposition, but I think even like the general, like he's got, I don't know, he is generic, but the way that he's not well acted, but the way he is acted is he's kind of a charming general, you know. I don't think he's that bad.
Kind of a weird.
A weird general.
Well, there's two generals.
Yeah, there's two different ones, but this is like the older one with the bigger mustache. He's kind of a weird, smiley guy.
Yeah,
I think he was in Earth vs. the Flying Saucers as well.
Yeah, which this movie uses stock footage from.
Yeah,
as well as it also uses stock footage from The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Yeah, of just kind of people running and buildings falling and stuff.
Yeah, and also for some of the stock footage of the planes, they use stock footage from war footage from World War II and a World War II movie as well called 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. I
don't think there's that much World War II stock footage, but yeah, there is a lot of fighter jet stock footage. A lot of sabers, a lot of cool fighter jets.
Okay, and a weird fact I heard about this movie is it held a record for a long time, which I'll read this directly from IMDb. Because I don't know how to summarize it, I guess. But it says in the trivia section, a 2-star general, Major General Van Buskirk, and a 3-star general, Lieutenant General Considine, flying a B-25 into combat against the monster, was the highest-ranking combat pilot/co-pilot in films for almost 4 decades. It was surpassed in Independence Day, 1996, when President Whitmore flew a F/A-18 against the alien mothership. Although cumulative ranks do not surpass a higher rank, the Lieutenant General/Major General Pilot/Co-Pilot still rank as the highest-ranking combat aircrew team in film history. So there you go. There's the Giant Claws piece of place in
there's its Guinness Book of World Record page. Unfortunately, surpassed, but
technically no.
when you combine them, but
what do you think of the effects?
So the effects, that's kind of the big thing people talk about. Well, I will say this bird is more flexible than a lot of the Heisei Godzilla flying puppets. You know, its nostrils flare, its head and neck actually have quite a fair bit of articulation.
Yeah.
And there's like some decent scenes where it's like grabbing buildings and trains and different vehicles and just kind of throwing them around.
Yeah, it's very. I think the effects are actually decent.
Decent for the time.
Like, I mean, I don't think they're great.
Yeah, they're not good. There's a lot of strings.
The bird looks pretty horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have to censor that part. But the bird does look pretty terrible, but it's very articulated very well, and I think they move it well.
Yeah, like the puppetry is fairly good. It does have very stiff wings. Its wings, like, they don't flap much. I was trying to keep an eye on that, and like most of the time they are just kind of, you know, like outstretched, and they're kind of like bent over weirdly, so they're not like outstretched all the time like a you know,
he's gliding
like a vulture would. They're kind of always like hunched over, but But yeah, overall, I think the design of the puppet itself and kind of the amount of strings is what really does a lot of the effects in.
Do you think that if the effects were done by somebody else, the movie would be remembered today?
So I think if they were done by if it was stop motion by either Ray Harryhausen or Willis O'Brien, it would have been still remembered, but it would just kind of end up being, lost in that whole thing of, like Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. It came from beneath the sea.
The giant behemoth.
Yeah, the giant behemoth. That was somebody else. I believe that was
probably giant behemoth was Willis O'Brien.
Maybe.
But I believe that was probably in production at the same time, so he probably wouldn't. I probably would have conflicted with that.
Yeah, or like the Black Scorpion, like it would have just ended up being lost in that whole group of films. But because the effects are so
out there,
out there and silly, it makes it more memorable. And if the effects weren't done by, if they weren't like this memorable, or if they were done. If they weren't done with stop motion, and it would have just kind of been lost in the whole mess of, the monster that challenged the world, the giant behemoth, which is a really not a good film. It just kind of would have been lost in that general mess of 50s monster movies. Because as I said earlier with the characters, a lot of them just feel very samey. And I think the fact that we've got an interesting monster, and the fact that we've also got just like pretty good characters, helps the Giant Claw to really stand out, I think, amongst all of the 50s monster movies, because there are a lot of them.
Okay. My thoughts on the movie. I do like this movie. I think this is a fun movie to watch, especially with, get the guys together and get some beers, it's a fun.
And while we do like this movie, we can laugh at this movie.
Yeah,
there's a lot of silly stuff. There's the weird narration at the beginning. It's super heavy at the beginning, and then it kind of trails off as the movie goes along, but it's still present.
It is something that I have to say is like the first third of the movie before the monster shows up is actually really strong. It really builds up to what this thing looks like. Really well.
I think the weird narration kind of kills the beginning for me. But I do appreciate that it doesn't have as long of an opening, like educational opening as like a lot of these other 50s monster movies tend to have.
But I really do like this movie. This is it's a fun. I don't think it's a great movie. I don't think it goes down in history as one of the greatest film. I don't think it goes down as one of the best films ever made or anything like that. But it's a fun time. It's not a movie you really have to think too hard about. It's a movie you can laugh at. And I think if the effects were done by anybody else other than Ray Harryhausen or Willis O'Brien, they probably wouldn't be remembered as much today. I think if anything, the effects that they came up with helped give it relevance.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably the best movie that Mystery Science Theater 3000 have not yet covered. I don't know why they haven't covered it, because I feel like they've covered a lot of the other cheesy 50s monsters. Like they did Gorgo and Revenge and one of the Creature from the Black Lagoon
movies. They did Revenge of the Creature. That was the first Mystery Science Theater episode I saw. And that was also the first Creature from the Black Lagoon movie I saw, was that Mystery Science Theater rip. That was my not exposure to the creature, but that was the first
I think the first one I saw was Gamera.
The Mystery Science Theater, yeah.
Yeah, they did the Sandy Frank dub in Gamera. Anyway, but overall, I'd say The Giant Claw is a fun movie.
Yep, definitely a good time to either, when I say that this movie is good and like I appreciate it, if you're, a mainstream, normal moviegoer, you're probably not going to find exactly what we appreciate in it, I don't think.
No.
But you can still, it's still an enjoyable movie to laugh at. Do you think it has some slow moments? It gets a little slow around the end, but at the same time that's also like when the monster is most visible and it's attacking.
Yeah, I think the film does get slow a few times throughout the movie.
But it doesn't hold the monster to the very end. Like that's something that
you see a lot of scenes with the monster.
Yeah, about halfway, like the very beginning of it, it's constantly hidden. But once it appears, they really don't do that for most of the movie.
Yeah. And in fact, as we were saying earlier, the poster, they did not show the monster at all. They cut off the head.
They had
but the trailer department went just showed as many shots as possible. And I don't know what's up with that dichotomy there, but it's a little interesting. Well, anyway, I think that's all we have to say about the Giant Killer Bird movie.
I got one more thing to say.
Oh, yeah.
You know, right now we're in a time of people remaking, doing sequels, doing reboots.
Oh no.
The best type of films that get rebooted, I think, are 50s monster movies. Like, consistently have good remakes. The Blob, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? A lot of 50s monster movies. And I think The Giant Claw is ripe for, like, you do not joke around with this. You make this as serious as you play it as straight as possible. I think you can make an awesome monster movie. You know, try to make this thing as scary as possible.
That'd be a very hard sell.
I think you could do it. I think you can make a very scary movie, you know, like 10 scenes where you've got like planes, you know, that are just like flying across the sky, and then like in the clouds you've got some giant bird that comes down and grabs this plane. I think you could make a pretty good monster movie, especially with modern effects.
Should they use the original design or try to do a redesign?
I think a redesign, but keeping a lot of what makes
the giant eyes, the nostrils,
the curved beak, the really long neck, the mohawk. Like, it needs to keep some of those, but I think you can tweak them in ways to make it a bit more scary, more serious.
Yeah, maybe like include the original roar, like.
Yeah, you have to include the original roar. But one thing I will say, this monster, as silly as it looks, I think it's one of the more original, more interesting 50s monster movies, not just from a design point, but from just like a general concept point.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are just like monsters from, they're prehistoric or they're irradiated. No, this is a bird from space. Oh, and he's got a
shield.
He's got a shield. And you just don't see, outside of Japan, you do not see that many monsters with, like, powers.
No.
Like, the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, he had, like, radioactive blood. And that was it. A lot of...
Giant Behemoth, it shoot, like, radiation, I think.
Yes. But yeah, this is, like, one of the few monsters that really has powers, which I think kind of helps make it a very interesting movie. And it's a very science-heavy movie once you do get to that last part with all the atoms and the stuff, because of the, explaining this whole antimatter force field. Yeah, I think it just makes for a generally interesting monster.
Okay. What rating would you give it out of 10?
I would give this film an 8.
Okay.
A solid 8.
I think I would give it the same score. It's not a great movie, but it's a good time. No alcohol. Well, actually, alcohol can be.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, I hold this up there with stuff like Them, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Like, I think that this is.
It's pretty high up there.
It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie.
I don't know if I'd rank it up that high, but I do enjoy it. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to the show, and join us next time where we discuss. I don't know what we're gonna discuss yet, but maybe. Who knows?
Gigantus the Fire Monster? Maybe I'll force you to watch Ultraman?
Well, we'll discuss that in due time. Have a good day, everybody.
It Came for the DVD Collection was hosted and produced by John Billinger and Connor Eating. The movie covered, The Giant Claw, is the property of Sony Pictures Entertainment Incorporated. This is a Tiger Media Net production.